Testing. Okay. Let's get the camera adjusted right here. Hopefully I haven't blown out the mic like I usually do on this. All righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Chase Elliott, unofficially your champion for 2020 in the Cup Series. With his father in attendance, with his mother there. Really, neat moment there. Jimmy Johnson alongside him there at the end. Can you guys hear me okay? We got the lav mic on here. Hopefully it's all set up here. Yeah, okay, right on. So, okay, so, where to even really begin with all, all of that right there? Okay, fantastic. Gotta say, right off, even more than Chase Elliott's thing, I gotta say, I'm very pleased for Jimmy Johnson. They're getting a decent run in that final race. I was dreading the possibility of, of him being the last car feature for this week. I know we still haven't had post-race inspection, but I would seriously doubt that that's going to be a problem on there. You never know, but I think that would be pretty unlikely. So, unofficially, Quinn Houff, your last place finisher from today's race, and we got a lot more to talk about that as well. Really, yeah, what to begin? Unofficially, just because there's post-race inspection, just on that, but it's highly unlikely to do anything with this. But again, it's a lot of that going on there. But yeah, I mean, my goodness, it's a lot to take in. Wearing the bring out the Alan Quickie jacket here today. Didn't run the Hooters paint scheme in here, but maybe should have. Maybe that would have actually ended the Hooters streak at the same time if Chase Elliott ran that and getting the victory there. So yeah, but it's all kind of washing over because we've had so much go on this year and the action that we've seen this season. And, a lot to kind of decompress a little bit there. Not the most thrilling of races, I would say, at least in the last stage. But the first two stages, it seemed like we had some pretty good battles there up front. I know Denny Hamlin. I don't know if Hamlin eventually led any laps there in the final run there. But it seemed like he was, he had the top four guys in there and being a factor, at least at different points there. Keselowski getting a stage win. Logano seemed like he had the best run at the beginning of the race. Got some debris off the nose there to keep there from being any issues on that end. And all of them, right up there. So, good to see on that end. And again, yeah, Jimmy's, fifth place finish kind of reminds me a bit of Watkins Glen back a couple of years ago. Beast of Metal, thank you again so much for the super chat here. Chase wins. Yeah, there you go. So somebody's excited, that's for sure. Thank you so much for that there. But fantastic job there for Chase Elliott, for the Hendrick team. I know that, he's obviously he's the most popular driver. Obviously, people in the Dawsonville pool room are going to be going nuts, as they already were during the broadcast. And it seemed like this was the outcome that most seemed to be hoping for, at least the way NBC was making it sound during the majority of this broadcast. Objectivity be darned. Yeah, so you have a whole situation with that. But yeah, Chase Elliott doing it in Jimmy Johnson's last race. Nice bit of a feature for Hendrick Motorsports. You kind of think back to other moments in Hendrick's history where you had stiffer challenges and more difficult circumstances there. You think of Atlanta in 2004 in one context there with all of them rallying together to try to get a victory there. The Hendrick Motorsports team, and it's interesting in this particular year where the Fords seem to just have a real, have everything, kind of well heeled, and the Joe Gibbs Toyota behind it, with Denny Hamlin being a factor, winning so many races, and Kevin Harvick winning so many races, and Logano winning the most races before the pandemic break, and then things kind of changing course when Brad Keselowski got his feet under him. Chase wasn't really featured that prominently in that, or the Chevrolets in general. In fact, the Chevrolets pretty much dominated the NASCAR championship on the other end of the field. But to have a circumstance here where it just happens at the right time. And again, I'm still no big fan of this point system, and still no big fan of the fact that you could have drivers be as dominant as they are and not even be able to have a role in the championship battle. people say it's the passing of the torch there with Jimmy Johnson, and maybe this is, maybe Chase is starting to kind of figure this out. And it didn't even need to be a road course for the last race of the season there, given his road course skills there, and Hendrick Motorsports really putting together great road course chassis there to kind of pave his path to this, winning at Martinsville then, and then winning Phoenix here, being able to close things out there at the end. So it's given how long this year has felt, I gotta say I feel extremely exhausted. So I appreciate the guys keeping up on the other stories there from the back of the field. On top of this, we had computer issues during this, trying to track what was going on with the radio for Timmy Hill and some of these other teams at the back of the field. And I appreciate the other information that we were able to get on that and talk about the competitiveness of some of these other teams that were struggling at the back of the field and trying to get back in there. Lap traffic playing an interesting role in all three of these races, even in the Cup Series race here today, even though the field got strung out as much as it did. Still kind of an interesting story. I think it's still another reason why you can't discount them for even being out there. They got to do the best they can under the circumstances. So, definitely another thing to certainly talk about that. Looking at the other things I had bookmarked on this in the leaderboard, had to follow, of course, a lot of when you have the season finale at any track, a lot of endings and new beginnings that are marked at the same time. Christopher Bell finishing in the 17th spot in Levine Family Racing's final start. Big kudos to Bob Levine and the effort that they had back when they used to be Levine Fenton Racing, and David Starr running for him there. I thought it was interesting that Starr not only ran the same weekend in the Busch Series, or the Xfinity Series rather, already thinking of throwbacks in this whole Elliott thing, but good to see David Starr was actually at the track sometime this weekend here as the 95 team ran its final race. 17th place finish for Christopher Bell. A kind of tumultuous rookie season for him on the Cup Series side. Had a few races where it looked like they were going to actually make something happen, and unfortunately things didn't quite work out on that end. Timmy Hill also one lap down along with Bell in the 21st spot as Germain Racing runs their final Cup Series race. Again, a lot of times, especially on the super speedways, especially when Casey Mears was running there, seemed like they were constantly getting a threat to pull an upset here and there. Just didn't quite happen for them. But good to see both those teams be able to come home with their cars in one piece. A drama-free race by all intentions. Losing a lap at the end of the race there, certainly no problem with that when you had, 13, 14 cars in the lead lap? 12, my goodness. Almirola losing a lap there towards the end, and Kurt Busch right in the sights of Chase Elliott at the finish there. Good to see some solid runs out of that. Matt DiBenedetto in his decent year for the Wood brothers here, in spite of getting shaken out of the championship battle, finishes the year in 8th place. William Byron gives Chad Knaus his final 9th place finish there for Knaus's last run as a crew chief, retiring at the same time as his former driver and Jimmy Johnson. Clint Boyer, 14th, second car one lap down in his final start, running in the top 5 at one point there. Was really good to see out of Boyer and everything. Bubba Wallace in his final start for Richard Petty Motorsports, 15th place. Alex Bowman, the final run for the number 88 in Hendrick before they reorganize things next season and bring the number 5 back. Bowman at his home track gets a 16th place finish. Looking further back, Eric Jones's last start in the number 20, getting the 22nd spot right behind Ty Dillon. And then so on and so forth from there. And then you had a lot of the last place battles that we saw today. Very tight battle through this. I was very surprised that it took as long as it did, although it seemed like when we were at the track last year, it took a little while as well before drivers fell out. And Chase Elliott actually was your last place finisher in that race because of an accident there after he had a similarly very tight battle with a lot of the playoff contenders. And that one when it was the next to last race of the season. But had to take it away from a couple of different drivers that were having mechanical issues. Timmy Hill, Joey Gase. I believe Quinn Houff was a part of that one as well. Just a rough situation there for a lot of those different teams. Hill was a factor in this one here this past week, finishing 24 laps down after some power steering issues in the early laps, getting the number 66 back out there. Good job by the Motorsports Business Management team. Same with Go Fast Racing, mentioning the lot of endings and beginnings, this being the final start for Go Fast Racing as a full-time team. not the final start ever for them. They're going to be back next year, and I'm sure the 500 is going to be high on their schedule there to pull off some kind of a good run on the super speedways. But LaJoie getting a 38th place finish there, next to last, just finishing ahead of Quinn Houff. Houff was declared out just before the last place position was swapped the final time, about lap 201, 202, thereabouts, just after the restart. But I think in the we'll see what the unofficial results look like. Look like Houff was the only person that fell out of the race, unless LaJoie was actually dropped out with the issues that he had and dropped several laps back there too. So lots to really talk about there, but yeah, I mean, really interesting circumstances and a lot. Yeah, I'm seeing the comment there. A lot of lasts in this race, that's for sure. Again, the atmosphere in these finales is always interesting in that sense that you have a lot of endings and beginnings, but things to certainly talk about and the way things go forward. Didn't you mention Daniel Suarez, his last start for the Gaunt brothers before he goes over to the deal there in the number 99 next year? Suarez finishing 6 laps down in the 31st spot. We'll see what happens with the Gaunt brothers team and all these other teams as we go into next year. Probably not going to have a lot of updates on the NASCAR side over this offseason. But we'll kind of keep running notes of all the team and driver changes we're going to have next year. And much like we did this season and last season, get that set up for you guys in anticipation of February, once we get a lot closer to that and the final few driver and team announcements that'll be coming up there. But yeah, I mean, a very interesting race. I mean, a lot more competitive for the lead than I anticipated in this. I know there were a lot of frustrations during this race last year when we were covering at trackside, worried about this particular package, worried about how competitive it would be compared to Homestead. Obviously at Homestead, you have just these multiple grooves, you have the gradient banking, you have a very wide track, people going 5 and 6 wide on the restarts, for better or for worse. Certainly people like Carl Edwards could attest to that. But in Phoenix here, I think that, whether it was a PJ1 or whatever combination of it, seemed to have some pretty tight battles for the lead and actually some decent situations on pit road there that made things interesting as well. Can't mention pit road without the frustrations that understandably Brad Keselowski has to be feeling. Had the Miller Lite glass packed up there. I have to admit that made him somebody that I was going to be watching a bit more closely to see if he could pull off the victory at the end. He was very much in about the same position that Chase Elliott was in the Coca-Cola 600 this past year when Keselowski pulled that off after some late strategy came up. Seemed like we were going to be setting up for a situation like that because NASCAR pulled a very unusual caution for James Davison midway through this race that didn't really need to happen. But whether or not they were going to pull some trickery around or anything like that to set up for Chase Elliott pulling off the victory or anything like that, if he wasn't leading towards the end of this, we'll never know. But I thought that one caution with Davison was pretty suspect and ridiculous. Although Keselowski did a tremendous job rallying back from what seemed to be serious issues on the rear tire changer, rear tire carrier issue there on his car, especially those last 2 or 3 pit stops there. Just seemed to have problems losing spots each time, especially even after winning that one stage. Still coming back to finish second in this race. Great effort by him under very difficult circumstances, but unfortunately, the issues for the pit crew leave a lot to be desired. Denny Hamlin didn't require any issues with tape on the front of the grill there. Still comes up short in a championship this year. Been a heartbreaker. I mean, you mentioned Kevin Harvick not even be able to make the Final Four here. If you have a situation with Denny Hamlin winning as many times as he did, being the first driver since Sterling Marlin to win 2 straight Daytona 500s in consecutive years, winning as many races as he could, leading a lot of Indianapolis, but falling short of winning what is potentially the final Brickyard 400 on the major oval, now that we're going to be running the Indy Grand Prix circuit next year. And then Hamlin to cap it off, missing out on the championship this year. And then Joey Logano, had some debris on the grill earlier. Quinn Houff, your last place finisher, actually figured into that when the debris actually came off the front of the number 22 there, but ultimately not being able to pull off the victory after running so well in the early laps. But a lot of comers and goers there. And it seemed like a longer race than it feels like in person. I remember last year at Phoenix, even though that one did have a late race caution, it seemed like it went by like so quickly. And, by the time you go in and out of the garage area, 2/3 the distance has already gone by. And you had a situation like that. Beast of Metal, thank you so much for the super chat here again. I hope Gaunt Brothers can find a way to come back next year. It feels like there's a path to them sticking long term, even with losing the Charter Lotto again. I have to agree. And I think the dynamic that's going to be very interesting is what's going on with the Michael Jordan team next year, since they got the Toyota contract. I know that's from the 95 team and not the 96, but I was very intrigued by something that Bubba Wallace said in one of those interviews that made it sound like it was up in the air whether or not he was going to be driving the 23. When I first heard that, even though there were press releases and Pockris did a great job posting them, showing that Bubba was going to be running the 23, the way I read that is that made it sound like maybe they're going to be running two cars and not just the one. If that's going to be some kind of coordination with the Gaunt brothers, I think that's going to be something that will be interesting to see coming forward, especially since we don't know what the Gaunt brothers are going to have as a driver. And they've had as many challenges as they've had, try to stretch into a full season thing. I don't know how that's going to shake out or anything like that. Pure speculation on my part. But that'll be one story I think over this offseason. I think that'll be an interesting one to kind of track. Whereas, are the Gaunt brothers going to come back as they are and find another driver and pick that up now that Eric Jones has landed over at the Petties and a lot of these other seats have kind of been filled? Or is it there going to be some kind of agreement with the 23XI Racing and all that? I mean, how's that going to shake out? It'll be interesting. That'll be a different one. But yeah, hard to say. But yeah, that'll be one of the many stories that we'll certainly be talking about here in the weeks ahead. We'll probably do some live streams over the off season here, not to any regular calendar, just kind of keep those up in the air there. But Chase Elliott, again, your champion. Timmy Hill already locked up the NASCAR Cup Series championship just a couple weeks ago. But Hill, of course, unfortunately had some other issues there at the beginning of the race there, and apparently had some issues in the rear of the car there as well. But finishing the sixth under power by all accounts here, at least. We'll see what the official results look like a bit later tonight. And of course, the feature on Quinn Houff or whoever is classified last today will be later today. And of course, we'll give away the other shirt here. The number 48 shirt. I have one that's wrapped up that's still in its original wrapping and stuff. That's the one that's going to be given away in the contest. Thank you to everyone who participated in that. We'll give that away after we get the official word from Tech Inspection. Don't anticipate anything changing. I believe a couple people did pick Quinn Houff in that contest, so we'll have that settled there pretty soon, and we'll certainly talk about that. Let's go into the talk about the Xfinity and Truck Series races this weekend, because those had very different outcomes versus what we just saw here in the Cup Series. Late race cautions were very much the story, and tire strategy, despite what Steve Letarte was saying, a lot of non sequiturs in the booth today. It seemed, on top of the relative lack of objectivity, because it seemed like there was a disproportionate amount of coverage for Chase Elliott, even compared to the other three championship contenders. Really. Like whether it was how much tape, the large piece of tape that went on Denny Hamlin's car, they put it just on the wrong spot. It's like, well, how about the fact that the piece of tape was too big, for example, or, the fact that Steve was saying in the pre-race that, track position was more important than tires. It's like, did you even watch the races on Friday or Saturday where it absolutely was about tires when you came down to a last minute thing? Would have been interesting to see if that shook out, but I'm glad it didn't come down to it. It's good that you have a long run to the finish there. I'm sure Brett Moffitt would certainly hope that that would have happened back on Friday there when he was ultimately shaken out of the victory there. But in the example of Saturday's race, Austin Cendrick seemed to have pretty much the best car out there. Very surprised that Chase Briscoe seemed to struggle as much as he did. I know that he said in his post-race interview that Phoenix is one of the tracks that he'd struggled at in the past. And it seemed like that just came up at really the worst opportunity there in the spin towards the end of the race there, dropping him further back in the ninth spot there at the finish. When the caution came out, I think I tweeted this at the time, it seemed like this was going to be a circumstance where Justin Haley was going to capitalize and pull off the victory there, just coming out of nowhere, like we saw him at the Indy Grand Prix circuit and some of these other races where he would just suddenly find his way up in the second spot and suddenly battling for the lead in a race where it seemed like he wouldn't even be a factor. He's been a really exciting dark horse to see, and I'm glad that he's re-signed with Colleague for next year, because he'll certainly be interesting once Briscoe goes into the Cup Series driving Clint Boyer's ride, and Austin Cendrick, the year after that, going to the Wood Brothers in 2022. But Noah Gragson looked like he was going to pull something off there at the end and just kind of make things a little bit more tense there at the end. But great job by Cendrick. Really had a breakout year as well. If the point standing stayed straight and didn't have any of these regroupings or anything, the battle between him and Briscoe down to the wire would have been really interesting. Again, unfortunate that Briscoe seemed to struggle so much on Saturday. But Cendrick proving himself on the ovals, winning those races at, I believe it was Kentucky earlier this year when he swept the weekend and won both of those. So that was a great turnaround. And that seemed to be the one thing that he needed to kind of just stay in this. And I'm still perplexed at how that car was able to survive the impact that he had at the wreck at the beginning. I believe it was at Kansas for the round of 8. Seemed like he had much more serious damage than Noah Gragson did at the time. But again, that team worked very hard to get that car back out there, and that thing was just built like a battleship, getting the best run that he could. And, and then even the more amazing story that apparently Roger Penske was thinking about shutting down the Xfinity program after the pandemic, occurred earlier this year. To think of him not even having a chance at the championship kind of echoes of some of these other Xfinity teams we've seen close up for one reason or another. Chip Ganassi's or Roush's team certainly come to mind there. So kudos to Cendrick there and pulling off the victory there. Wasn't who I thought was going to be a favorite in that. It really seemed like Briscoe was going to be one to watch, whether or not this was a good track for him or not. It seemed like he's just had a incredible season this year. And if not him, Haley was going to be knocking on his door there. We saw a bit out of the other colleague entry there with Chastain during the race too, overcoming some adversity. There was a tweet that I retweeted during that too that I thought did a great job of covering why the Xfinity series has been so compelling this season. And a lot of drivers having career best runs, just a ridiculous number. We've had 80 something different drivers and a large portion of them actually having career best runs. That's been one of the most exciting things of this year. Among them, you have to certainly talk about the 2-car team over at Mike Harmon Racing, having these great runs. And even at the finish here, Bailey Curry in the 15th spot, Kyle Weatherman in 17th, all the way to the wire. I think that was one of the outstanding deals that we had this year, much like last year with Gray Galding in the SS Greenlight entry and Brandon Brown starting to get his feet under him in the number 86 then and the 68 now. So great runs on that end. Josh Williams, again, finishing strong at the end of the year. Mario Gosselin's team, all 3 of their cars really picking up the pace this year. Even Dexter Bean getting a career best finish, being one of those many drivers this year. But Josh Williams, really this entire stretch here in these last 5 or 6 races of the playoffs has been absolutely outstanding out there. Getting a 13th place finish there to round things out. Great runs for him. Brandon Brown, mentioned him, of course, earlier, making the playoffs there along with Ryan Sieg. Sieg, unfortunately, just, again, bad luck hitting him one way or the other, whether he was having the mechanical issues at Texas or unscheduled stops at Phoenix. Had a lot of races where he was up there at the front row. We've talked about this about every week. It's gotten to the point there where, he's arguably the best driver or best team that hasn't won an Xfinity race yet. Him and Daniel Hemrick, I'd have to put in the same category there. Hemrick, unfortunately, not a factor in the Phoenix race there too, losing some laps with some mechanical issues. I believe it was a stuck throttle on the number 8 there, so problems on that end. CJ McLaughlin ultimately was your last place finisher from the Saturday race, not a factor in the NASCAR championship. In fact, it was his first last place finish in the Xfinity series. That article is already posted on the website, so you can certainly check that out. Donald Thieg, Matt Mills, Tommy Joe Martins, and Ryan Vargas in the TikTok car rounding out the bottom 5 from Saturday's race. But again, a mix of kind of some rough runs and some good runs there. Again, I mentioned David Starr a bit earlier there, 16th place finish for him, for Bobby Dotter. Great run on that end, and lots to certainly talk about from there. This brings us, of course, to the Truck Series race on Friday. Brett Moffitt, as mentioned, again, had a great Jimmy Johnson throwback. Seemed like he was going to be cruising to a pretty easy victory, at least in the closing lap, similar to what we saw with Chase Elliott today. Unfortunately, Dawson Cram gets tangled up with Tanner Gray coming off of turn 2, which on top of already being a rough deal for Dawson Cram and a new team, that I believe the newest team in the Truck Series. They just started over this past summer, and he was involved in a very similar accident that tore up that great Tim Flock throwback at Darlington this year, merging into another truck and getting tangled there. You get a late race restart. Tire strategy ultimately proves decisive in that sense. Moffitt stays out, still has the lead. But much like the circumstances with Justin Allgaier in the Saturday race, didn't really mention Allgaier in that equation there. Allgaier having the same situation as Denny Hamlin, missing out on the championship here. Moffitt trying to go for his second championship, his first with GMS Racing, ultimately just slips through at the end there. That late race restart there. Ben Rhodes and the other drivers getting up there. Have to feel for Grant Enfinger at the same time. Looked like he was going to be the one to slip through there. And who would have thought that a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck in Chandler Smith getting in front of him, and ultimately Enfinger hitting the outside wall, costing him a shot at the championship. Sheldon Creed slips by and ends up taking the title for GMS in his own right in the number 2. And it just occurred to me, that was the other thing I mentioned earlier. We had the number 6 being a feature in all of the NASCAR championships. The number 6 for Norm Benning, who locked up the championship when Tanner Gray and Johnny Sauter didn't finish last on Friday. So he's got a certificate heading to him. But also the number 66 on both the Xfinity and Cup side, Stephen Light on the Xfinity side, Timmy Hill on the Cup side, locking it up. It looked like number 2 is going to be the magic number this week. Again, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski at times were factors certainly in today's race, but it's the number 9, of course, at least in the lineups here. That is your champion for this season. And so kind of breaking that streak. Speaking of broken streaks, also mentioned that the streak of consecutive election years where Martin Truex Jr. was classified last appears over. Again, still pending post-race inspection, and that could affect anybody in the field. Obviously, in our past incarnation of this show, we waited until post-race inspection. We probably won't do that today because I will probably be just like last year, where it was about 3 hours of waiting for post-race inspection results. But apparently that streak broken there as well, where Truex is not classified last, at least from an on-track incident after 2008, 2012, and 2016 with 3 different teams. That graphic has already been posted there on the site. But that was always an interesting way to kind of shake that out too. Let's see. Need a new oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry if there's anything on the comment section here. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Blue Cup, thank you for the super chat here. Sorry I missed that there. I wasn't really looking at the chat here during this here. It was an Elliott Simps versus Logano Simp war. Well, I mean, that's certainly one way you can look at that. I mean, there was definitely, we talked about this back at the All-Star race, that you had different issues where you had different drivers that had different fan bases or weren't talked about that much. It's a different situation there when you have drivers that were booed back in the All-Star race. They're being introduced. Like we saw Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick being booed. It's like, well, these are the best drivers out there. Even other drivers having that. It's unfortunate to see that in the All-Star race at the championship at the same time. But it is certainly what it is with that sense. Goodness. Alrighty. Let me just check something else here. But yeah, crazy stuff. We'll get some. We'll do some trivia here in a little bit. I think it's only appropriate. And look, you see it on the camera? No, I guess you can't see it on the camera yet. It's only appropriate, since Chase Elliott has locked up the championship, that we certainly have to use this again. So we'll probably do some Bill Elliott trivia. We have the other one here in the meantime, and we'll jump into that there. Certainly, if you have any other questions or anything from the action that this weekend, anything that I've missed here, definitely feel free to ask in that. And we'll certainly check that out here at the exact same time here. All righty. Let me check here. All right. Let's see. Okay. Hang on. Just make sure I didn't miss anything else on this end here. Yeah. I may get some more. Okay, hang on. Okay, good. I was about to say, maybe I probably should have some more moderators in the chat here, because I haven't been watching it that closely. So yeah, just keep things civil as best as possible. I know it's been a difficult week, and I'm not going to pretend that world events are not happening here. So I don't know if that's anything of what's going on here or anything, but I do see we got 2 mods in the chat here, so that's good. maybe we'll deputize a few more here and keep that going here. Let's see. Yeah, Sauter's season, Break Hawk. I'm seeing your comment on there. Yeah, I mean, a rough deal there on that. I mean, Sauter, I mean, obviously his radio sweetheart trend has kind of continued going there, where he's had a lot of issues there this season. I don't know if it's just a continuation of those bizarre engine failures we saw at the Thor Sport last year. He certainly seems outspoken on the technical issues they had on that end, but hopefully things turn around this year. But yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see once we get some more responses here on the actual action from this weekend as to how people like the racing. I'm sure Jeff Gluck's poll is going to certainly be interesting here. I don't know how much of it's going to be skewed just because people are Chase Elliott fans or anything. I know the third stage wasn't quite as good as the first two, but it seemed like at least letting it play out and seeing how critical pit strategy was, it was good to see that for a change in spite of all these different packages we've had where, you know, exit speed and so forth hasn't been as much of a factor. So that'll be a different deal there. Oh, you're a LaJoy fan. Okay, right on, Breakalk. Okay, there you go. Just gave up with that name. I don't know. It's a bummer that the 32 team had problems in that last race there, but be good. I heard that the ARCA West race was good. Yeah, I'm seeing some comments on that. I didn't watch that one there, but I saw the highlights of it afterwards. I know William was covering that, or at least watching that at the time there, so that was good to certainly see. Some pretty tight racing on that end. Good to see a larger field too. I mean, as I've always said, I'm always a big fan of getting bigger fields out there and everything. So that's certainly interesting. Let's see. Let's see here. Checking out anything else on here. Let's see. Hang on. I'm going to do this. There you go. I'm going to add Sir Wrinklestein here too as a moderator. I know you've been in this forum here a lot. I think it's good to have more on here at the same time. So we'll keep that going at the same time. Hang on, just checking your other comments here in the meantime. We'll get into trivia here in just a moment here and catch up on all of this here. Any other questions people have on this? Keith Rocco made his ARCA debut in the ARCA West race yesterday. P10 in the Venturini car. Oh, great run there. Fantastic. Yeah, David Gilliland is ageless. That's very true. He really, I mean, I think was it NASCAR Man or was it Carnation that posted the pictures where it was like Gilliland in 2007 versus today, and he looked exactly the same. I mean, some people are just like that. I mean, that's just a different one there. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's see here. Well, we'll jump into this. Let's go ahead and jump into that there. I see we got 84 people in the chat. Welcome aboard for those of you who are new. I know we had a lot of people back at Martinsville, but it's good to see other people jumping in here. Again, if you have any questions on this or anything else that we produce here over at the website, episode 3 of Rise of the Field Fillers is in the works. Got some good work on that done last night. That'll be something that I'll certainly look to hopefully continue here over this off season. Certainly should hopefully be easier now that the action has died down a bit in the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series. I got to admit, that was one big challenge there. I'm really surprised I was able to get those first 2 episodes done with the intensity of everything that was happening this year, but I'm very much looking forward to getting this next story to you guys and hopefully getting that up the next couple of weeks. Don't have a set date for that yet, but those of you who are in the $5 and up level, you can certainly check that out. Also, again, for those who didn't see in the Twitter, I have a new video for those $10 and up level members in the patreon.com/LastCar on Brock. I posted that. It's actually tied in with wearing the Alan Kawicki jacket today. A little bit of an account of the 1992 Hooters 500, at least as it was for a project I found back from high school in 1999. Little bizarre take there, but trying to put some kind of unusual content or maybe stuff that doesn't fit as well in the main channel into the Patreon there for those that are interested. And I'm hoping to kind of get some more content for you guys here, especially as the season starts up again. And again, we are looking at covering races trackside again, starting with Fontana in February, again, contingent on whether or not the credential application goes through. Really enjoyed covering that race last year. Hate that we didn't get to cover any other races this year, but at least we were able to have, some coverage there during Jimmie Johnson's final season. That ended up actually turning out to be the last start that he had in California, in his home state, after the Sonoma race got canceled there in June. So that turned out to be an interesting get at the same time. So definitely check that out if you're interested, and we'll have some more discussions on that going forward. Let's see. Yeah, classic artwork on the high school paper. Yeah, not my best work. I would have to say. I think I tried to just draft that without doing any colors on that. So we'll do that. So let's do a few questions on the Bill Elliott thing here, and we'll cover that here. But again, if you guys have any other questions there at the same time, that would be it. Jack Garland, I saw your comment there. Do I remember when Alan Quickie won his championship? I do remember 1992. I don't remember Quickie very well that year. I remember 1992 much more for Richard Petty's last season. I think that was primarily because my first exposure to racing was Days of Thunder, and Petty featured pretty large, at least in the opening of it. I guess that left an impression on me. I don't remember watching that race live, the 1992 Hooters 500. I know I watched like Bristol live in 92. V. Allison was injured down the stretch. Yeah, unbelievably, I didn't actually watch that race live. I didn't actually watch it until they did a rebroadcast of it on Speed Vision in the late 90s. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe I missed this. But I heard about, Petty's retirement was really the big focus that I had, at least as a kid. I was about, 9 or 10 years old back then. I remember Petty's retirement being a much larger feature. It's going to be interesting looking at years in the future, if not as many people remember Chase Elliott's battle for the championship in this one versus Jimmie Johnson's final start, and just saying like, oh, there's this older guy named Johnson winning, getting fifth in his last race. Really interesting to see there, but that'll be a different one to kind of talk about there. Nicholas Gray, thank you for the super chat here. I just realized Dale Jr. has 3 drivers who ran for him in Xfinity and now are Cup champions. Very good point on that. So, kudos over to JR Motorsports for what they've been able to accomplish, and drivers that are now, up in the Cup Series and winning championships there too at the same time. So again, that's where it's kind of a heartbreaker for the situation there with Justin Allgaier there at the same time, much like Denny Hamlin on the Cup Series side, just constantly getting close to winning these titles, but not able to get over the hump. We'll see what things look like next year. I mean, it just seems like such a gauntlet just to make this Final Four, and then you just have one off race, or maybe the final race of the season isn't a track you're particularly good at. Although in Allgaier's case, it seems like he's been pretty consistent at Phoenix in recent years. Just a different kind of deal there. But yeah, no, I'm not saying Jimmy won the Xfinity title or a truck race. Yeah, that's a bit of a different circumstance there, but a different one in that case. Let's see here. Yeah, one Xfinity race win and 83 Cup wins. I mean, that's really just crazy to think about. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I remember, Jimmie Johnson made his first start. I mean, that just, October of 2001, I was in college. So, it's amazing how different that seems. I think in the broadcast for qualifying, I guess they showed Jimmie Johnson do his qualifying lap. I know there were a couple of drivers that weren't shown. I guess Carl Long, when he was trying to make his first race with Thea Dixon's team, that was like cut out of the broadcast, but Jimmie Johnson's was in there. But it's really it was just such a different time back then, and bizarre races to talk about. But it's hard to think about an entire career in your own lifetime, because the way I grew up in the sport was just a lot of these drivers that have been around for decades and still out there and still active. Your Harry Hance, your Richard Petty's and stuff like that. It feels weird to see a driver start their career and retire at the same time there, and anticipate, maybe some of you, even that are, a little bit younger fans out there, maybe you feel that way about like Clint Boyer, for example, starting in 2005, 2006, and then retiring just this year. So you're getting kind of that sense at the same time. All right, I know I've delayed this already enough. Let's go ahead and do some questions here. What was the first year Bill Elliott won the Winston at Atlanta? So there's your question again. What was the first year that Bill Elliott won the Winston at Atlanta is our first question. Bill Elliott, the Winston in Atlanta. We're talking about all-star races changing location so much. Certainly the one that's going to be at Texas next year after running it at Bristol this year, one of the many, many stories from everything. So I think that seems to be the question that it's asking here. All righty. Just again, what was the first year Bill Elliott won the Winston at Atlanta? Now, I'm hoping it's not just a badly worded question and it's actually asking when did Bill Elliott win his first race at Atlanta, but that could be that. And the answer is indeed 1986. You guys got it. A lot of you got that there. In 2002, who did you think would be more successful, Johnson or Newman? Actually, Newman. And I'm not saying that just trying to be like, I was going against the grain. Like, no, I really did. In fact, between my brother and I thought for sure he was going to win the first half of the season. The fact that it's easy to forget, in 2001, he was already winning poles as a part-time driver for Penske. And it was very clear that he was going to end up being like the full-time driver in that. I thought he had tremendous promise. And in fact, and I still argue this with him, technically he did win the first half of the year because he won the All-Star race in 2002. So you had that. But of course, it turned out Jimmy Johnson won Fontana, and things started going down that track already. And very clearly, even though Newman actually won Rookie of the Year that season, Jimmy Johnson was very much on his way already in his career at that time. Oh, I like that. Yeah. There should be a list of 10 to 20 races every fan must watch. Yep, exactly. No bad booking. That's a good point. All righty. Let me get the next question here. What is the color of the pit road flag to let the drivers know that the pits are closed? What is the color of the pit road flag that lets everybody know the pit road is closed? That is the question. I'm reading it weird because it's got to scroll on this tiny little screen. Those of you who are new here, obviously on the other one, on the Trivial Pursuit one, we don't really have that issue as much. But it would be remiss not to do the Bill Elliott one. I'm also not getting the light to shine on it properly. Okay, let's try that. Okay, we got ones for red. Red with the yellow X. Red and yellow. All righty, what color is this flag that indicates the pits are closed? Before the little spaceship that we have at the end of the corner. Again, this is the 1999 paint scheme for Bill Elliott, so a bit different in that sense. And the answer is a red flag with a yellow stripe through it. A red flag with a yellow stripe through it is indeed the correct answer. So much like the old McDonald's machine, we still have the old the McDonald's curse and the curse for the Hooters continuing into next year. We'll see which one of those ends first. I saw somebody asking in the comments too, make sure to mention about Matt Kenseth potentially running his final race. Have to mention that as well, of course. Yeah, Matt Kenseth ran about mid-pack during the race here today, but apparently came home with it in all four corners on it there. The site of his last victory there, the number 20 car a couple years ago when it wasn't the championship race. Perhaps appropriate that he wraps things up this time in the number 42. Now that Ross Chastain's going to be taking over that car next year, going to be very interesting to see what happens from there on out. I was asked certainly on Twitter if it's actually been official that Kenseth's not coming back next year. Certainly seemed prudent to at least mention it in the same breath there with the other championship contenders that were being talked about. Yeah, I mean, Matt Kenseth apparently, at least in September, was reporting that it was pretty much doubtful that he was going to be coming back this next year, depending on what rides are to be available or what services he'd be able to offer. Now that a lot of these top rides and even some of the mid-tier rides are getting filled up, it's going to be interesting to see if that changes any, but probably not going to. Yeah, he's called his retirement 3 times now. Yeah, it is kind of like a Mark Martin situation, which is probably appropriate since Martin had that investment in Kenseth's team. Maybe some of that rubbed off on him already. So you have that situation. Alrighty. Whoop, this thing turned off again. Let's get this going here. Got to reboot the little Bill Elliott thing here. Alrighty, next question. What was the first year Dale Jarrett landed a full-time ride on the Winston Cup circuit? What was the year that Dale Jarrett landed his first full-time ride on the Winston Cup circuit? That is our next question. A Dale Jarrett question on the Bill Elliott thing. How about that? Well, we talked about the second generation thing. I mean, NBC showing the whole thing with Dale Jarrett and Ned Jarrett and all that. Yes, what was the year that Dale Jarrett earned his first full-time Cup Series ride? I got numbers all over the place. 86, 88, 91, 90, 87. You know, all kind of in the same range there. We got 2015. Alrighty. Dale Jarrett. That is our question here. Dale Jarrett, when he got his first full-time ride. And we'll get the answer here. The answer, 1989. That was something. I was about to repost this earlier, but the retirement video talked about Dale Jarrett gradually taking over Cale Yarborough's ride and then basically becoming the full-time driver after the 1988 season. The history of retirement seasons is on this channel here. If you haven't seen it already, highly recommend it. I was going to repost it earlier today. Uh-oh, is the mic screwing up a bit? That's not good. Let's bring it closer. Hang on. How's that sound? Ultimate 23 Dragon, does it sound okay? If we're getting static, it's probably because I got the antenna in this pocket here. Got it right? Okay. Make sure the battery's not. Okay, we are kind of low on the battery here. Let me set this aside. A little bit of... We've had some weird technical gremlins today. I apologize for that, folks. We'll see, hopefully, that they'll get through this decently enough. Got it right? Is it better? Okay. Alrighty. Hopefully we're doing okay here. We'll just leave it on that for now. I think that was probably getting us some interference. Let me know again in the comments. Yeah, of course, I'll keep this window open if we have any other issues. If we need to, I can switch over to the audio of the webcam here, and we'll do as best as we can under the circumstances. Alrighty. Next question on the Bill Elliott one here. Let's see. What was the first year Bill Elliott won the Busch Clash at Daytona? What was the first year that Bill Elliott won the Busch Clash at Daytona? That is our next question. Everybody watching the Steelers game? Okay. What was the first year? We're looking for a year that Bill Elliott won the Busch Clash. 85, 86, 87, 82, 84, 83. The first year that Bill Elliott won the Busch Clash. That is our next question. Alrighty. And the answer is 1987. 87. I would have guessed 85. I thought he won all three. I thought he was going for the Speed Week sweep there, the old Fireball Roberts streak there. I guess they wouldn't have had the Busch Clash back in Fireball's time, but yeah, 87 is the correct answer. Terry LeBon, 85. You checked? Okay, well, I didn't tell you not to check, so that's fine. Alrighty. We'll do a couple more on this, then we'll bring the Trivial Pursuit one out here. Alrighty. Let's see. Hang on here. Let me get this repeated. I just got the second half of the question here. Okay, there we go. The lighting's a little better there. Got to get this calibrated here. Okay. Who are the three drivers to compete in at least 700 Winston Cup starts? Okay, who are the three drivers that let's say as of 1999, to compete in at least 700 Winston Cup starts? So we're going to three names of drivers who competed in at least 700 Winston Cup starts as of 1998 to 99, thereabouts, the late 90s. Who are the three drivers to compete in at least 700 NASCAR Winston Cup starts. Okay, Kirk Shelberdine, right on confirmation. Petty, Rudd, Marcus. Petty, Pearson, Rudd. All right, any other guesses here? Yeah, shootout returning tonight. Isn't it on Tuesday also? It's like a weird day of the week also, where they're trying to cram it all into 1 week, where Speed Weeks is like literally just a matter of days now. All right, the 3 drivers are Richard Petty, excuse me, Bobby Allison, and Dave Marcus. Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and Dave Marcus. I guess, yeah, at this point, Rudd hadn't quite reached that. Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and Dave Marcus as of the late 90s. At least 700 starts. Yeah, Doritos and Mountain Dew. Looks like you got it. Yeah, it seems like Darrell Waltrip would be in there. Yeah, there's a lot of ones that are in there that seems like it should be part of the mix. But sometimes it just shakes out differently. Oh yeah, that was the other non sequitur there. Yeah, the fact that this is old school racing, where only the last lap counts. It's like, well, there used to be lap leader bonuses or leading the most laps, or I don't know. The over earnest approach to these broadcasts is just kind of funny. Ooh, wow. Somebody put a picture of Chase Elliott's car with Bill Elliott's old number. Not this version of the number, but the other one. That one's pretty hip. I'm going to have to retweet that. That one actually looks pretty cool. There you go. Let's see. Check in here. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Alrighty. Okay, another question here on this one. Next question. What year did Bill Elliott team up with Dan Marino as co-owners of a race team? What year did Bill Elliott team up with Dan Marino as co-owners of a race team? What year did Bill Elliott team up with Dan Marino as co-owners of a race team? Yep. What year did Bill Elliott and Dan Marino become co-owners of a race team? All right. 98, 94, 90s, 95. And indeed, the correct answer is 1998. Indeed. Of course, Jerry Nadeau, the initial driver. Of course, was I going to be able to resist mentioning that? Of course not. Jerry Nadeau is the initial driver. Ended up changing hands a couple times after that. Let's see. Jimmy Johnson, Bob Pockris tweeted this 22 minutes ago. Jimmy Johnson said he and Chase Elliott had talked previously about a helmet swap prior to the race. He didn't seem convinced that will now happen. Yeah, well, there you go. Well, maybe he didn't count on winning the championship. That's hard to tell. Not seeing any information on tech inspection here. We probably, like I say, we probably won't wait that long, but we'll certainly talk about this here in the meantime. Alrighty. Who was the first national commissioner of stock car racing? Who was the first national commissioner, or the first commissioner of national stock car racing? Election week and inspection week. There you go. Who's the first commissioner? Let me read that again. I think it said national a couple times in that one. Who was the first national commissioner of stock car racing? Okay, the first national commissioner of stock car racing. Okay, that makes it a little bit clearer. Yeah, a trick question? Yeah, it does seem like a trick question, doesn't it? This one has had some tricky ones. I think we did this for like Michigan or something, and it had some bizarre ones that we had to eventually set it aside. We'll probably set this one aside after this one here. All righty. And the answer is E.G. Cannonball Baker. Wow, so people guess Cannonball. There you go. Cannonball Baker, Doritos and Mountain Dew. Matt Johnson. You got it a couple times there. There you go. Yep. Cannonball Baker. How about that? Well, I would not have guessed that. Unless we had that one before. Maybe somebody remembered it, but I don't know. That one completely fooled me. It seemed like it was a trick question to be a big Bill France question. But the first commissioner, E.G. Cannonball Baker. So how about that? Yeah, no, that surprises me too. All right. Yeah, the wording is weird. Yeah, it needed a couple of drafts here. So in the spirit of that, let's go ahead and jump to the Trivial Pursuit one again. And we'll do this for a few questions here. All righty. So again, the categories for the Trivial Pursuit one, again, made about the same time as the Bill Elliott one here. Categories are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those will be the categories: NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are our categories. All right. Whoever wants whichever category. RD Fox 76, my choice. That's fine. That's a nice thought, but I'll still leave it open to the poll here. I'm going to just do that so I can get something to drink here. In the meantime, of course, bringing out the code red for the finale here. All righty. All right, I'm seeing a lot for the wild card already. For you wondering, this is okay. Yeah, I didn't think it would be Jimmy Johnson immediately logging in here to the chat here, but I appreciate you mentioning that. I do tend to fall for things like that. Can you do a video about the controversies of BK racing? That would be an interesting one to talk about, because I think one thing that was really interesting about BK was when that team closed and when it folded up. Because that one time, I think the first time we went to Phoenix, there was, of course, that charter was still up for grabs. Sounded like GMS Racing was going to pick it up. Then you had Victor Obaika re-enter the picture, along with Jonathan Cohen at the NY Racing team. And they ended up actually trading off cars and just kind of renumbering them there. That was really fascinating to me, because it was just like, even got to the point where they were swapping cars out. And Tanner Berryhill, that was driving for Obaika there, wasn't sure exactly what was happening. Very glad that I caught that interview with Victor there, and it was very cool that he spent some time talking to me a bit more about his interest in the team. The interview is actually still on the Last Car site. If you look up Victor Obaika and Tanner Berryhill, it comes up there. But that would be a rich subject to talk about. Pretty much at this moment, I'm still planning on just committing to the Field Fillers series, just because there's a lot of material to get through, and I think it'd be good to kind of keep that going. In terms of doing one-off videos, that might still be appropriate along the way. I might do that more targeted towards the Patreon, because I want to make sure people that are at the $10 level get what they pay for on that. Get some more bonus content in there. So that's kind of something that's going to be kind of my goal looking forward here. Confirmation 07, thank you again for the super chat here. Never forget, Kevin LePage took out 15 cars at Dega. Oh, man, I remember where I was. I was going down to my best friend from college. One of my best friends there, teammate that was on the rowing team, was getting married, and I was going down to Orange County, and I stayed at a hotel, and I was watching that on TV, and Kevin LePage merge up, and they went, because ESPN's coverage wasn't very good back then. They switched to an onboard shot right before LePage merged into traffic, and all of a sudden this accident just seemed to randomly come out of nowhere. Just the craziest thing that you would see. It's like something you could see out of a video game or something. And Carl Edwards' car had a very terrifying jump there after it ran over the back of the cars in front of him there. Glad that nothing was more serious than that. Alex Mazurik, you're asking about Obaika. Again, if you check out the website, check out the Last Car site, there is an interview that I did with Victor Obaika at Phoenix when he was fielding some former BK racing cars with Tanner Berryhill driving. He talked a bit more about the team and what their plans were. Also interviewed Berryhill himself there. So if you Google that, that'll come up there at the same time. Yeah, Landon Castle once driving for BK. Yeah, that kind of thing too. But that was interesting. Yeah, rookie veteran. Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of votes for wild card. We'll go ahead and do wild card here for this next round. And we'll do a few questions here. Hopefully my battery doesn't conk out on this in the meantime. There we go. All righty. Before we go too far into this here, I do want to say, just in case it does cut out here, I really do appreciate everybody's support this year. I got to say, I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels this just kind of exhausted and maybe perhaps a bit relieved that the NASCAR season's in the books. Between everything that's happened this year with the pandemic break and then cramming all these races together again, kudos to NASCAR for getting all 36 races in and regrouping it really right before the Cup Series championship. I hate not having to been able to go to Sears Point this year, that we only did one race this season, that things are still kind of up in the air, but I got a great deal to be thankful for this year. Started a new job here these last couple of months. Again, great people at my previous job there and everything. I'm glad I was able to, go through that in the proper channels and everything. Really pleased with how the website has grown, the following here on these streams, as well as the website. I know a lot of you seek out these here to just kind of something to kind of get away from it all here and just have a little fun, do some trivia here. I'm still looking to do that over the off season here for you guys. But I know a lot of you guys out there are struggling and everything too, and it's been very difficult. And I know that, you have many options in what to spend your relaxing time with here to try to put things back in order and maybe kind of escape from things and enjoy it. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in and doing that here. So it really does mean a lot. So enough with too much on that, but I'd definitely be remiss without saying that as we wrap up the season here. So certainly hope that better days are certainly ahead. So first question here. How old was Lee Petty when he first began racing? Oh, well, there we go. An age question. Talk about ages of multiple time champions. All righty. How old, we're looking for a number, was Lee Petty when he first began racing? Mark Allen, a driven commentary for Patreon. That's one thing I'm looking at. I already have the Days of Thunder commentary track on there. I think driven would probably be good, better material as something funnier. So I think that'll be an interesting one to certainly talk about. How old was Lee Petty when he first began racing? Don't look it up. Try to guess it. I know we got a lot of guesses already. 22, 21, 35, 34, 29, 38, 36. Okay. Alrighty. And the answer is 35. 35. 35. Matt Johnson. Looks like you were first on the button there. Maserati 9. There we go. Steven Deswan, you mentioned the Dale Jr. mentioned the slap shoes got to mention a couple weeks ago. Actually, he already has. That's one of the things I'm very thankful for this year. And that was a big part because Matt Dillner was able to get a copy of JD's book into Junior's hands. So I was able to kind of work something out there with him. Junior actually mentioned me in my book during his weird news segment there, and talking about the fact that JD McDuffie in his career actually had to put a lot of his tire money had to actually gamble some of that money away there to afford to buy a new part for his car or his hauler or anything like that. And made a really neat segment on there. And he was very cool to mention that. And I'm very appreciative of Dirty Mo Media and Dale Jr. on that for mentioning that. So and I'm glad Junior mentioned slap shoes as well, especially in the same breath as his Lost Speedways thing. Certainly well deserved. I haven't watched his latest one on Super Modifieds yet, but that's going to be something certainly interesting. Uh-oh, my microphone is about to cut out here. Hold up. Can I switch the audio here? Let me see. That was too close. Oh, Mr. Antian, thank you so much for the super chat here. What a great way to close the season on a competitive race among the Champ 4. Congrats, Chase. Huge for him with how young he is. Have to agree. I'm not a big Chase Elliott fan. I got to remain objective. But a lot of cool moments, in that and all, and certainly happy for him in that sense. But that was certainly interesting to see. Okay, my audio. Okay, my microphone's about to cut out. Is there somebody quick on tech support here? Is there a way you could change your microphone input while you're in a live stream? I don't know if there is. If there isn't, I might cut out of this one. Let's see. Hang on. Edit. Hold on. Hang on. I might be able to fix this. Hold up. Hold up. Where is it? Where's the audio? Okay, not that. Not that. Public sports. It's gonna cut out. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I don't see it here. Okay, nope, don't need that. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah, 35 was the correct answer on the last question if you didn't see that for what age Lee Petty was here. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm just streaming it through YouTube. I'm hoping that there was an actual option on here to see about changing it. Okay. All right. Tell you what. Let me see here. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to see if the audio is still working. So maybe I'll switch back. Okay. Audio back up? Is the audio back on? Okay. I think we're back on. Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. So what I'm going to do, so this audio doesn't cut off, it's probably going to cut off any second here. Again, thank you for those of you who tuned in. If you like to stick around for a few more trivia questions, stay tuned to my Twitter feed. I'm going to close this stream. I'll open a new one with the microphone from the webcam here, and we'll keep going from there. So thank you again so much for everyone who tuned in. Feel free to stick around for the other stream. If not, thank you so much for tuning in this year, and we're going to have much more content. See, this thing's blinking at me here, so I'm afraid I think that's playing me off like the Academy Awards here. So bonus stream coming up here in just a minute on this channel. Just stay tuned. But again, obviously you don't have to stick around for that. But thank you so much to those of you who did.